Let the meltdown begin. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network. I am Gabriel Morency. Let's do this thing triple threat style as we've got three quality guests lined up for you this evening. I'm going to send it to Hollywood, California. One of the funniest comedians in Los Angeles will step up in it and join us. Big Earl Skakel, big fight fan. We'll get his thoughts on Bellator 120. Robin Black, Fight Network's very own, joins me in studio. We'll get his take on Bellator 120. We'll give you information as we've got another countermove.com free roll. That's for UFC 173 this weekend. As, of course, it's Renan Barão and TJ Dillashaw. We got Henderson and Cormier. We got Ellenberger and Robbie Lawler, who's fighting for the first time since that epic championship fight against Johnny Hendricks in Dallas, Texas. Joey Odessa will join us from Costa Rica, the best combat sport odds maker in the business. We'll crunch some numbers for UFC 173. We got some videos of the week, as always. All that and more on tonight's MMA Meltdown. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues. I am Gabriel Morency. Big Earl Skakel, comedian extraordinaire, will join us from Hollywood, California in a couple of moments' time. Joey Odessa will crunch some numbers in Costa Rica. We got some kick-ass videos of the week, as always. We welcome Robin Black back to the program. Robin, it's always a pleasure. How you doing?
Good hanging with you, man. Doing good.
So, Robin, we've got another counter-move free roll, UFC 173 this week. There's the annual card in Las Vegas, Nevada for the U.S. Memorial Day weekend, and counter-move's going to be giving away some money this week, and it's a good thing because I got my ass handed to me this past week. Last week, we actually had the counter-move people on the program. In Aaron Ard, and I was talking about playing the head-to-heads with some of the high rollers, and Alfredo Bandido, dude with blue hair and a mohawk. He's listed as a pound-for-pound champ on Countermove. This guy likes to put the challenges out, $100 head-to-heads, $50 head-to-heads, and this guy's beaten me more than I've beaten him, and I got taken to the cleaners this past week with the Bellator stuff. Michael Chandler just didn't give me as many points as I was hoping for.
Yeah, also, you got ripped off by those judges because Chandler won that fight, man. Chandler absolutely won 3 rounds of that fight, so the judges screwed you too, which is kind of the trick of counter. We've been having a good time with it. It's fun to do. It's fun to talk about it on the show, but it's also just fun to hang out on Twitter with the people and play with them, although when you get your ass kicked, it's tough. But yeah, I mean, that's where all these millions of variables go down. Some ref, gets involved in some way he shouldn't. Some judges don't see it right. All of a sudden, you're losing money.
Especially in Mississippi. They're on a dirt road in the backwoods of Mississippi, and I've been there. I've literally been there. I did a show in Starkville, Mississippi, and the closest airport is Memphis, so I know the exact roads where they were, and I'm not surprised that things were a little shaky there, but it's funny as well. You can look at the counter move points, Robin, and you can look at what happened in the real world, and ironically enough, King Mo had more points in countermove than Rampage. Not that means anything in the real world, but people are like, oh, the wrong guy won the fight. Well, Fight Metric and Countermove thought the wrong guy won the fight as well.
Yeah, hey, listen, when you're very into anything, whether that thing be movies, fighting, NASCAR, whatever it is, it's fun to see as many different perspectives as possible. And Countermove does give you that other one. Like, I mean, you're looking at, we're looking at Fight Metric, we're looking at scoring and fantasy, we're looking at all these things. You get an extra perspective. I had also Mo winning that fight. And I mean, there was something about Mo that's kind of been bothering you. I mean, afterwards he's complaining that the mats are slippery. The mats are the same mats for every single fighter, but somehow they bother you only. But at the same time, I had him winning the fight. And I had him winning the fight.
I'm in the exact same position here. And let's start with King Mo, because I want to backtrack to what you said about Chandler as well. With King Mo, in which you get the feeling that he could be better. Yeah. That there's another level that he doesn't kick it into, of which when it turns into a fight, he doesn't seem to really want to fight. And when you gun and try to win, when you go in there with the intention of zero intention of trying to stop the fight, and you're going in there, you're putting it in the hands of the judges. And I think it's a little cliched when Dana always says, well, don't put it in the hands of the judges. Well, it's not that freaking easy to knock the other guy out all the time.
Right. If it was, everybody would just do it.
That's like saying in the NFL, well, you shouldn't trust the referees. You're supposed to be able to trust the judges, but you're right. Like the Emmanuel Newton stuff. It seems like after every fight, King Mo's sort of bitching, right?
Yeah,
and it's like, you had your chance,
I
dude.
know.
Even though I agree, King Mo won, but I don't really feel sorry for him. It's one of these weird deals, you know?
Yeah, it really is. And I'm very leery to say too much bad about a fighter. You know, if a guy had a bad performance, you describe it, that's your job. But when you're talking about these intangible elements, it's tricky. But I looked back, and when you want to get your wrestling facts, you want to get details about guys growing up in NCAA and stuff, Mike Reardon, Coach Reardon on Bloody Elbow, this is the guy who will give you the facts. And Reardon broke it down, and he said, Mo Lawal had a history of showing incredible promise in his life in athletics, in wrestling and everything else, and not really fulfilling that promise. That's a bit of a history of this guy. Now, it's tough for me to say that as a guy who couldn't get past the basement level of MMA. We're guys sitting at a table. But, you know, when a history of that's there, it's hard for you not to reference it. And Mo's been one of these guys, and you don't end up on his side for some reason. But on the other hand, the guy loves pro wrestling. If you're going to be a heel, Mo knows how to be one, and maybe he's working us.
You know, and it's interesting right now. Now, Mo's getting pissed off saying Bellator screwed him, and Bellator screwed him. And then I'm thinking, dude, they've given you a lot of money. They've made you main events. They got you in TNA. And as you stated, without really a background. You know, beating Musasi once, basically.
Good win.
Yeah, good win, but it's interesting that you bring up that he's never really lived up to the potential in the past as well. And we sit here both in agreement that he probably won that fight.
Yeah, he
technically,
did.
if you want to, you know, technically he didn't, you know, but then you go back to your face is messed up. Rampage is like wasn't even sweating.
Again, as many perspectives as humanly possible.
And they're almost all insulting because do we really want to sit here and say as well, even though it's the elephant in the room, you couldn't beat a 38-year-old Rampage Jackson that's developing Phil Mickelson man breasts.
You know, overall...
And I like Rampage.
Yeah, me too. Overall, I had a good time watching that. I think ultimately, when it comes right down to it, didn't you kind of have fun watching that Bellator show? And I think ultimately that was the big question. Like, are we going to leave Saturday night and go, okay, yeah, I think I will see more Bellator. I think I will pay for that again. And I kind of left it being that. And a big part of that was just like the Tito busting out and winning and getting all excited and acting like he just beat John Jones and going crazy. And I'm an inspiration to people. You know, it kind of added something. Tito, Rampage, even Mo bitching,
like
all
after
of
the card
it.
then, almost like with the Mo thing, I was almost confused after the card. I was like, I don't know what I just saw. Like I was stuck in a weird, I was like, Mo probably won. I was like, he kind of got screwed, but he always kind of gets screwed and doesn't do enough. As you mentioned, Tito Ortiz. So Shlemenko is a 5-1 favorite. Come on, 5-1 favorite. Who's he ever beaten? And that's what I brought up. And listen, I'll be honest. We got inside information that Tito was drinking, that Tito wasn't training, that he was just hitting the bag. He wasn't rolling, he wasn't wrestling, he was hitting the bag. He was hitting the sack with Amber Lynn. You know, he likes the legends, evidently. He likes the Hall of Famers.
He likes to go old school.
No Tory Blacks and Alexis Texas. No. Who's next? Christy Canyon?
Maybe.
But point is here, Tito supposedly was distracted. And, you know, that he wasn't in a good place, that he was, you know, barbecuing and not in a fight-type mode. You got Shlemenko. And everybody after the fact tears it away from Tito. Big deal. You beat Shlemenko. He's a 185-pounder. Well, none of you guys were saying this before the fight when he was a 5-1 favorite. And don't tell me, the odds makers don't know what they're doing. Because they set the odds by what you guys are going to bet.
Yeah, true. I know. The Tito gets a raw deal, man. Straight up. The guy just gets a raw deal. One of the legends in fighting. The guy was around at a time where people really didn't know what was going on. Every time he walked into that cage, you're like, am I going to die tonight? Like, it was a terrifying time for these people. And he just gets a raw deal. He shows up. He's had surgeries.
And he fought a lot of top fighters in their prime, right?
Absolutely,
like top guys.
man.
Like he's been in a lot of wars. People act like he's just sort of a clown. Oh, and Tito.
He's Tito Ortiz, man. Why are we giving this guy such a bad deal? You want to give somebody a bad deal because he talks too much when he wins? Go Matthew McConaughey. You know what I mean? Like, this guy talks about how the fact that, you know, he's an inspiration to himself. At least Tito's saying an inspiration to his kid. I still like Tito Ortiz. I was happy to see him win, but it is a little damaging when you're talking about your 185-pound champion being one of the very best Russians in the world, and he loses to a guy who was that big of an underdog. It is tough for Bellator. There was a couple of those.
Well, and if you're Shlemenko, though, you're the one who wanted this fight for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, you asked for it, but that's the thing where I was left confused after it. You know, you're a manager.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're into the fight aspect of this, but you also understand the business side of this.
Yeah.
And that's why, I was left confused with all this after. I was like, you know, all things considering, I was entertained. I enjoyed the card.
Yeah.
I was pissed off. I lost $300 on counter move or whatever. But all things, you know, I was like, you know, that was a pretty, entertaining card. But then you start to do the math. It's like, all right, so now they've got Tito digging graves. And
digging the grave of their champion.
Yeah, digging the grave. Your Russian guy's like half dead. Your champ's like beaten up.
Yeah.
You just got Michael Chandler beat.
Yeah. Chandler Alvarez suddenly was your biggest fight going now. Yeah, I know, but you can't control these things.
You go in, I know, but you go in with these things. I got all angry about Dana White protecting Ronda Rousey.
Yeah.
It's a smart thing to do. I don't like it with Cyborg, but I understand. You have to protect your fighters, Rob. You can't put fighters in a no-win situation. When Alvarez is out, you almost just tell Chandler, you're waiting for Alvarez. It's not worth it. Because if you win, you get zero credit for beating Will Brooks. And if you lose, now Burger King don't want you in the commercials because you're losing as a 10-1 favorite.
Yeah, might have been a better idea to put Melvin Gillard in there with him. But you know what? Just imagine now. So we're in a bad spot, but you can rewrite history when you're a promoter. And people kind of just go along with it, you know? So we can go, why don't we go Brooks versus Gillard? And then Chandler and Alvarez three, you know, and then put
no one will
together.
complain about that.
Yeah, nobody will really complain. Like, it always looks bad on Monday morning, like, oh my God, our champ is beat, or, yo, we lost the fight. You never really do, because you can go back and rewrite something. Or you make Alvarez just go out and say, you know, I demand to fight this guy. I don't care if he doesn't have, it's not about titles, I'll give up my title. Get him to go crazy, build something people want to see.
Well, so can we both agree on this, that it seems like they're kind of making it up as they go along?
Yeah, I enjoyed the show, and you want to see Bellator do well. And the thing is, we had
so many people don't, though. They seem to enjoy the misery of Bellator, don't they?
I don't know why that is. I mean, we like fighting, right? Of course, we love the UFC brand. It's the big brand. It's what we're all a little cottage on the side of this giant company. But at the same time, good fights are good fights. That was a nice Saturday night. You kind of get a good vibe off Bjorn Rebney, at least during the building phases.
What'd you think of the Michael Page dude with the showboating and the Roy Jones Jr. type stuff?
It's definitely fun. You got to see him fight somebody, you know? And I don't think anybody expected him to get booed, but American audiences don't necessarily go for that. You know, he's fought over in Britain and everybody loved him. If he's going to get booed, really get booed. Just say, well, if the guy changes his style
when you watch that, Robin, there's more of the tendency of saying, instead of saying, wow, look at this guy, he's a real hot dog. It's more like, man, I want to see the other guy hit this guy, don't you?
Yeah, and you know, when
it's rainy.
When Silva lost to Weidman the first time, he's dancing around, and he landed that punch. And a few friends of mine, I was watching it at home, but a few friends were in a bar, and they said the bar just went crazy. They just were like, thank God somebody knocked out that clown, that showboat. This is one of the greatest fighters of all time, and they were thrilled to see him get knocked out. So if you're a Michael Page who's, you know, beat lower level guys, it's going to be dicey.
I lost enough money to buy a house on that. And I was so angry with Anderson Silva. And then after, they're like, no, he wasn't clowning. That's how he fights. I'm like, no, he was clowning. Like, and to lose like that. But hey, Michael Page is entertainment because dude entertains. He got the knockout. And people are going to want to see this kid get his head knocked off. We're going to wrap it up already, but check us out later in the week on the Fantasy Sports Network. We'll get Robin Black's counter move in UFC 173 picks. We're going to wrap it up, but quickly, 15 seconds. Dillashaw got a shot. He's an 8-1 underdog.
He has a shot for sure, but it's a real tough hill to climb. If he has the best night of his life, he can win that fight.
And Henderson's a big underdog against Cormier as well.
Hey, man, he didn't look good against Shogun, but he's got that dirty old man strength and he can win fights. But Cormier is a stud.
Robin Black of the Fight Network. MMA Meltdown continues. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues. I am Gabriel Morency. Let's send it to Hollywood, California, where one of the funniest men in the business steps up and joins us. Been a long-time regular on our programs over the years, going on about 10 years right now, I believe. And maybe you've seen him in a Doritos commercial. Maybe you've seen him opening up for Rob Schneider, or maybe you've heard his kick-ass podcast. It's been the talk of the town as of late. Big Earl Skakel steps up and in. Earl, it's always a pleasure. How you doing?
Gabe, you're the only one who's supported me through the years, man. I'm doing good.
I'm the only one that still supports you. What do you mean, like, supported you? I guess besides Rob Schneider, right? We're still holding out for Sandler to step up and in.
Well, even though I think I was temporarily banned back in the team, Montreal days for my Harold Wirtz comments.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Wirtz wasn't even in the ground yet, and you were urinating on the grave. But that's besides the point. And no, but you never were banned. You never were banned. But that's besides the point. But a lot of stuff to get to here, Earl. And as I mentioned, you're doing a podcast, and I figure it's about time. You've been a guest on so many other shows over the years that you do your own podcast, and it's a little bit of music, pop culture, but you're a big fight fan. So you've had fight-related guests on, and Don Fry being one of them, who's just a true legend of the game, and David Arquette on as well, talking some wrestling. So you like to incorporate the fighters into the podcast when you get the chance, don't you?
Well, it's very hard to get these guys to my house in West Hollywood. So to be able to get a guy like Don Fry, who the word legend's very overused in our business, but he is one. He was fighting, as you know, in the UFC when guys were coming to the octagon in hoodies from their closet.
Yeah, I miss those days when dudes were wearing Nikes and stuff. So what was the best Don Fry story you got out of him?
Well, I thought, with the whole Michael Sam thing happening in the NFL, I said, hey, Don, what are your thoughts about, potential gay MMA fighters rubbing up against each other? And he just looked at me and said, I was molested. I don't think about it. So I'm like, okay, how about that Gary Goodrich fight, Don?
Yeah, so that's what you get for putting that question out there to Don Fry. It was actually, he's in one of those Priceline commercials now with Shatner and the chick from the Big Bang Theory. So we're a Bellator 120 in the books, and I didn't think it was that bad. There's a general perception it was pretty bad, but I guess it's all relative. I actually didn't pay the $45 for it, so I'm not complaining about it being bad. I know that you watched it, and I know that you put your money down for this. So, in your opinion, like, how bad was it? Was it real bad? Was it like Kiss the Elder bad? Put it into like bad metal record terms for us. What did you think of Bellator?
I would say if the UFC is Cinderella, Bellator 120 was Brittany Fox. My biggest problem with the whole card, which wasn't that bad. By the way, the Bellator 120 judges just awarded World War II to Japan. It was the pacing. I think in the first something like 72 minutes, there was literally 10 minutes of action, and it just. You're going to have a pay-per-view, man. You got to get your you-know-what together. And, the fights weren't horrible, but, I don't really have an interest in seeing Tito Ortiz fight. And their roster is so thin. The fact that he has 3 more fights, I don't know who he's going to fight. They're going to bring up a 155er?
Well, he gets the win. And, Tito was rocking with Jenna when she was the talk of the town, Earl. And, word on the street is it's just continued with some other of the legends of the adult industry, and it doesn't seem to hurt him. And Tito Ortiz back, given the old gravedigger. Tito Ortiz still lives, but as you stated, he only weighed about 40 pounds more than Shlemenko at the time.
Yeah, I don't. He's a legend, no doubt about it. But I don't really have an interest in seeing Rampage fight anymore. It didn't look good when King Mo, who granted is a great wrestler, took him down in literally 10 seconds. and there's no way he won that fight. I'm all about, like Dana says, don't leave it in the hands of the judges. But Stevie Wonder would not have scored that a win for Rampage. And even Rampage, I mean, Gabe, you've been in the game a lot longer than me. How many winners ask for a rematch?
It's a little strange. He's yelling he wants a rematch, and then the decision is announced, and he's like, I want a rematch because I didn't knock you out. It's pretty strange. And betting on Bellator, watching Bellator is one thing, Earl. Imagine actually having money on this stuff. It's almost like betting on the WWE. You just sort of hope that Earl Hebner doesn't screw you at the end of the fight. Man, you're going with the storyline. And they wanted Rampage to win. They want to put Tito up there against Rampage. And Shlemenko's sort of victimized by all of this. And then you get Michael Chandler, who somehow loses a 10-1 favorite. And, hey, Brooks fought his ass off, but Chandler actually won that fight. I think Chandler took 3 of the 5 rounds. But I'm not taking anything away from Brooks. But Bellator's whack, man. And, doesn't matter whether it's Bellator 10 or Bellator 120 or it's going to be Bellator 200. Strange stuff is going to happen, Earl. It is what it is,
Well, I mean, I really think the Cinderella Brittany Fox thing is the perfect comparison. I mean, they're just.
I think you're being a little harsh on Brittany Fox. Let's go a little bit deeper. There's worse. There's worse than Brittany.
Well, but I mean, the original guitar player from Cinderella founded Brittany Fox. So I'm sure this isn't what you want to talk about on your program. I mean, I could get real deep into this subject matter, but. Bellator is just second class in everything they do. The walkouts are horrible. There's no energy. I don't know. Czech Congo, the guy he was fighting, looked like he swallowed Fedor. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't give the fight to Smith over Congo. It's just the ring girls look like girls you'd see dancing by LAX on a Tuesday afternoon. Believe me, I know what they look like. And the roster's so thin, it's like, they might lure Bob Sapp out of retirement.
Daryl, that might be your best line ever, actually. The Bellator ring girls look like girls that are dancing near LAX. And I thought the girls near LAX, normally the airport's got some good talent, Daryl.
Well, yeah, but not on a Tuesday afternoon. And for you LA listeners, and I know you have a lot of them, just go buy nudes on a Tuesday afternoon. Tell them you know Earl. You'll get in for free.
Big Earl Skakel joins. Yeah, but Earl, you're not refusing any of them. You're not kicking any of them out of bed for eating Oreos, are you?
Well, listen, Gabe, if you lined up my last 5 girlfriends, they'd look like the offensive lineman pictures at the combine.
And it's a good segue into me asking about Bob Sapp, as Bob Sapp is finally retired. And Bob Sapp reminds me of the girl I saw you with at the Stratosphere a couple of years ago. So Bob Sapp rides off into the sunset. He'd be a perfect guest for your show, Earl.
Why do you think the Stratosphere is leaning to the left when I took that girl up to the mountain? I actually have been tweeting with Bob Sapp, and I know it's him because let's just say the tweets have an interesting diction to them. He's a great guy. He probably has saved all his money in Japan. He's a legend. So, he wasn't the greatest fighter, which is so weird because he's so massively strong, but it's another guy from our era. The Fedors, the Bob Sapps, the Fries are starting to fade into the sunset. So I'm kind of sad when I see someone like that retire.
Now, I think the last time I saw you was in Vancouver for the UFC. And, the UFC's going back to Vancouver, and I'm going back to Vancouver again. Or else, if you got the time, hop on the plane and come down. It should be a good time. We'll be at the Sin Bin, as we always are. When we go to Vancouver. But speaking of the old guys, Andrei Arlovsky back in the UFC, Earl. I know you're a fan of the old school Arlovsky back. He's taking on Brendan Schaub.
Well, I kind of feel, listen, I've always loved the Pit Bull. I don't necessarily know if it's a good thing he's coming back, but I think they want to kind of build him up. So I don't think Schaub has much of a chance against him. I've seen Schaub more at the Comedy Store more than I have training. So, This is like when they gave Mir to Overeem. I think it's almost, all right, just beat this guy and we'll give you another stiff. And I mean, they kind of need him because the heavyweight division is, it's a little bland, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I don't know how it, kind of reflects poorly on the heavyweight division that they're rolling in Andrei Arlovsky right now. And you're not being totally honest here, Earl. You're not telling the story about how when you met Arlovsky when he was the security guard on the Jerry Springer show and you got the paternity test done.
Well, no, that was Maury Povich. I thought I was the father.
Oh, that's it. All right, it was Maury. It was.
I saw the scan of the baby in the womb, and he was had a KISS shirt on and was playing hockey. So I thought, well, this might be my kid after all.
You got to take the TV work anywhere you can get it, right? Springer, Maury, it's all good.
Listen, at this point, I try out for the next Amber Alert just to get the FaceTime.
Big Earl Skakel with us. So, Earl, you got the podcast going, Inappropriate Earl, and every time I log on to Twitter, man, I see you got huge guests. As I mentioned, you had Don Fry, David Arquette from Ready to Rumble, and a lot of people in the WCW world actually believe that when he was made the real champion, that was the bells began to toll for thee and Eric Bischoff and company when Arquette became the champion. I guess they figured that the movie, it was a good trade-off. All the publicity from the movie would pan out, except the movie didn't really do very well, and then it killed their company.
Well, yeah, I mean, that definitely and he felt bad about it. He said on the podcast that, he didn't really want to be the champion, but they kind of forced him to do it, and that along with, and I'd like to dedicate this segment to the great Ultimate Warrior, who, as we know, passed recently, but, they put all their eggs in Arquette being champ, and they brought the Warrior back, and that was a complete bust, and then, they were like the Bellator to the WWE, just no long-term plan, and it's like, you look at Bellator and you go, okay, if they had a long-term plan, they're signing the older stars, short-term, that's a good idea, like WCW was, but then it's like, once that plays out, it's like, okay, what do we have now?
And, that is the thing with Bellator, in which I look back at 120 and I think, I actually enjoyed it for the most part. It almost had a freak show element to it, but for the most part I enjoyed it, but it's always the morning after with Bellator in which you realize it's almost like a big bender, Earl, the Hollywood bender, in which I wake up and I'm like, what did I do last night? And I think, oh, that poor guy, that we heckled on stage. And with Bellator, they're like, you wake up in the morning and it's like, all right, great. We got Shlemenko beat. The guy was on a 13-fight win streak. We got our poster boy Chandler beat up by nobody in Will Brooks. And we wanted Tito to lose. We paid him $160,000, and he actually wins, and we're stuck with him for another 3 fights. Yeah, Bjorn Rebney doesn't seem to plan for the future very well.
Yeah, and it kills the product. Then you got, Shlemenko, now what do you do with him? You kind of ruined his whole shtick, and now Chandler and Alvarez is a dud because it's like, well, he couldn't even beat Brooks. And, Rampage is, I don't know, I love him and he's a legend, but, I don't want to see him fight anymore. And so it's like long term, it's totally like when WCW had Hogan and Nash and Hall and Macho Man and had all these great young talents like the Guerreros and the Benoits. I mean, I know Benoit, by the way, where was Benoit's kid's tag team partner that day? They all left the WWE because they're like, we're being held back here. And, I want Bellator to succeed because I think it's always going to be better for MMA, for the fans and the fighters if there's legit competition. But I don't think Rebney, I think he's almost doing this just for laughs to be a thorn in Dana's side.
Well, he's cashing checks, and Viacom have the deep pockets. Big Earl Skakel with us. Check out the podcast, Inappropriate Earl. And Earl, it's been too long. It was good to get you on the show. We look forward to seeing you at a UFC event, and we'll get you on again when there's some heavyweights. We know you're a fan of the heavyweights, both women and fighters. And we got to wait for Kane and Verdum a little while, but there's some big heavyweight fights coming up this summer.
Oh, absolutely, and I'm excited about Dan Henderson fighting, and that's not. I think Cormier is going to kill him, and I just don't want to see all these legends, like when Fedor got killed by Bigfoot. It's like I just hope Henderson does well enough, and he rides out the sunset, because I don't want to see any more of our old favorites, get taken out, Gabe. And I'm really waiting for Cyborg and Fallon Fox.
Yeah, who do you like?
Well, either guy has a chance.
Big Earl Skakel with us. Always good, Earl.
Gabe, I love you. Thank you very much for the support. The show's amazing, and you're the best, brother.
There's a Big Earl Skakel with us. It's a somewhat censored format. We told him he can loosen it up a bit if he wanted to, but he's still held back. As true story about Big Earl Skakel. He's the only guy I ever know. He actually used the package inside. The plastic inside of a Ritz cracker box. He actually used that as a condom once. And maybe another time when he's on the show, we can get him to tell the story. So that's the type of humor that Big Earl can go down. And very funny, man. His podcast is great as well. Inappropriate Earl. Joey Odessa is going to join us from Costa Rica. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues. We're going to send it to Costa Rica and crunch some numbers, pick some winners with the best odds maker in the business in Joey Odessa in a couple of moments. But let's get to our videos of the week. And we only got 3 videos this week, but it's all about the quality, not the quantity this week. Let's start off in Russia. And this video just once again proves why Russians are the most insane people on the face of the planet. As this is a Russian video. This is just a dude showing his buddy how to disarm somebody when they pull a gun on you.
Но возможно, все может получиться и вот так. У вас второго шанса не будет. Наблюдаем внимательно.
I don't really even know where to start here with this one. Like, can you teach me the disarm it without the loaded gun? Like, wait, yeah, and make sure you shoot gun, you shoot, huh? Like, what is this guy, a freaking psychopath? Vladimir Putin thinks this guy's nuts. Like, that is beyond insane. It's one thing, all right, I still can't it's like a Bellator pay-per-view. I can't figure it out. What did I just see? That's what I feel like here. Like, did you need to use, like, live firearm when you do this? But, hey, once again, man, Russia once again proves why they're so freaking hardcore. All right, speaking of hardcore, the Samoans aren't far behind. This is just awesome, and I think we've discovered the next Mark Hunt.
Again kicked the points from a penalty, and there was more ill discipline to follow. Tom Youngs and Celesi Marfu involved in an off-the-ball scrap. The Leicester hooker Youngs yellow carded for starting it. Marfu sent off permanently for finishing.
Hit the body shot. That's a nice hook to the jaw. That's a big dude right there, man. That's like Mark Hunt dropping you. The guy that got punched actually said, hey, great punch. Good luck next week in the championship. And the Samoan dude responded, yeah, sorry, the jersey gets the best of me. I owe you a pint. These guys are hardcore. Not as crazy as Russians, but pretty hardcore nevertheless. And this last video, this one's been viral. It's been everywhere. But the cat's takedowns were pretty damn good. And I think we need to get the cat in here. This is from Bakersfield, California, in which a 9-year-old kid gets attacked by a dog. A cute little puppy. Till the puppy senses little Timmy's playing in the yard here. This kid's in a lot of trouble right about now. Here comes the cat. It's pretty hardcore, man. The cat chases the dog, and then you look at the end here. Look, the cat comes and protects the kid again. Not a bad, not too bad, man. I haven't seen, very, very Brock Lesnar-ish coming across with the spear from across the octagon. And, I think this cat's an American hero. I think he should be on the Today Show and stuff and throw it out first pitches. And evidently it did throw out the first pitch. And, well, not really throw out the first pitch, but, they bring the cat out to the mound and stuff like that. And, word is the cat's going to be chief of police soon in Bakersfield, considering I think the town is bankrupt. So, hey, why not make the cat the mayor? But that's a great video right there. I was going to show you a bunch of teenagers hitting each other over the head with shovels, but I think we might be encouraging bad behavior amongst America's youth. So instead, let's talk some gambling with Joey Odessa. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network continues. I am Gabriel Morency. It's not MMA Meltdown without a trip to Costa Rica, where the premier combat sport odds maker in the business joins us. Joey, it's always a pleasure. How you doing?
Oh, good. What's happening, G?
Hey, good stuff, Joey. Good stuff. So, we spent a lot of time. We've had a friend of yours and Big Earl Skakel on the program, and Robin Black from the Fight Network. We spent a lot of time talking about the Bellator 120 card, the ramifications, the upsets, the fact that Tito Ortiz can't really win with the public. He's a bum going into the fight. He's a 5-1 underdog. He wins the fight. And then, big deal. He beat a guy that was much smaller than him. And from an entertainment standpoint, the card really wasn't all that bad, Joey. But from a business standpoint and from a betting standpoint, it was pretty much a freaking mess and a disaster. Not to take anything away from Will Brooks, but as Robin Black brought up on the show here, Chandler won that fight. Like, why are you screwing over a kid that was your champ that arguably got screwed over in the last fight against Alvarez with a decision? Chandler's got 2 losses on the books right now. He might have won both the fights that he actually lost. They get their guy beat. He's in their commercials and stuff. They get him beat. They're stuck with Tito Ortiz in their world right now for another 3 fights, and they screw over King Mo. So from an entertainment standpoint, it wasn't that bad, but from a business standpoint, Joey, seems like such a mess that Bellator created for themselves.
And now they got all these guys on the roster still. I mean, now Ortiz is, I guess, relevant again, and Rampage, I guess, is relevant again. King Mo takes a minor step back, but I thought Mo won the fight. I thought I could have made a better case for Mo than Chandler, to be honest with you. But, hindsight, rearview mirror, you don't know what the judges are going to do. We talked about it the week before. We said, it's not, I don't want to run out and bet Sklemenko. I just want to look at it and say, and just hope that, I don't know. The fight just didn't, Tito's bigger, and bigger's not always better. And it, maybe, I don't know. No comment. I just have to put it in the rearview mirror. I watched the money, I watched the paper trails, and I saw, inconsistency. I just saw things I didn't care for, and, on the back end, and, things happen. But, that's the job of the people that are in the gaming industry to take a look at that. Fortunately, a lot of places didn't offer this high limit because when you qualified a freak show, Sklemenko really had nothing to lose out there, I guess. In hindsight, that's the story now. He had nothing to lose. Tito beat a bigger guy. I mean, I didn't think it did a lot for the organization. Pay-per-view-wise, I watched the Russian, it has been pretty dominant, just lose to a Brazilian, and I watched I saw some things that I was kind of baffled, but at the same time, I wasn't surprised. I almost sat the card out.
Yeah, and, there's, we've said it before, like, listen, we don't know what's really happening and what's going on out there, but there are some people out there, Joey, and you're sort of hemming and hawing around it. I think people know what you're sort of implying, but there wasn't a lot of resistance from Sklemenko. Could he have done more to prevent the situation that he found himself in? I don't know. When you got huge numbers like this out there, like I said, the whole thing, Like I told Robin earlier, I was just confused after the show. I was like, I don't know what I just saw. Like, I don't know. Was I watching wrestling? Was I watching fighting? What the hell did I just watch? These backwood judges in Mississippi are screwing around. And, but, you've said it before, and I'm almost coming around on you. You and I have gotten into arguments before. I've actually defended Bellator, but it gets harder and harder on a weekly basis. Let's dive into UFC 173. Renan Barão has made short work of Dillashaw's teammate in Uriah Faber a couple of times in the past. Barão's a big favorite here, Joey. Dana White's gone on record and says he thinks he's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the UFC, if not the world. He's a big favorite right here. I know you think that Mendes has a shot against Aldo. What about Dillashaw against Barão?
Oh, I mean, I come off of last week, with the Bellator, some of these favorites, I mean, nothing surprises me. And usually when a guy looks, when a guy's being pumped up and, I don't know what's going on in Barão's head, but if he starts believing the headlines, and he did say, he mentioned that he wasn't happy with the pay if he was the best fighter in the world, that he didn't feel compensated. All those little distractions, take their toll on you. Now, whether Dillashaw can go out there and execute a perfect game plan and beat him, I don't know, but I'm not running out to bet the Brazilian at that high of a price. Absolutely not. You've
been one of Daniel Cormier's biggest backers over the years. Cormier and Henderson are friends. They didn't really want to fight each other, but it is what it is. It's almost like Dana. This is Cormier's like Brock Lesnar, and Dan Henderson's the Undertaker. It's almost like, all right, Dan, it's over, and we're going to get you knocked out against Cormier here. Henderson always has a shot, man. He's always got a shot because of the hands. But with that being stated, he was getting rocked against Shogun, and I got to believe that Cormier hits harder than Shogun does here, Joey. I don't think this looks good for Henderson coming in here. But do you want to be laying this type of monster price of minus 600-700? I don't think so.
I've seen stranger things happen there again. I mean, Dan's a Greco guy. He's got a good freestyle background. Cormier's they're both Olympians. That's something that I haven't watched the preview shows, but they could build on that. Greco Olympian versus a freestyle Olympian. I think that's a great concept. Two world-class athletes. One that's got more MMA experience. One that's come on the scene and just taken the world in MMA by storm in Cormier. But at the same time, I think that Shogun striking is probably more technical and more MMA technical than Cormier, but I think Cormier's wrestling has adapted to MMA better than Henderson's has. I think Cormier can take him down, but at the same time, I would think Dan will take one on the chin real hard. And I tell you what, if he walks into one, you don't know what's going to happen there.
Yeah, for the most part, Cormier likes to stand and bang because he figures he's got the heavier hands than anybody, and he's going to catch you. But that's a dangerous game to play against Dan Henderson, as Shogun found out. Shogun was having some success with the takedowns even. Even Shogun was having some success until he got caught. Cormier's got to be careful with that. I'm not in a hurry to lay the price.
Now, these are some high prices. I mean, somewhere in that main card, again, I talk about it every week, we'll need a parlay buster. I'm fortunate that a lot of places, and I tell you, a lot of places are fortunate they didn't offer parlays on that last card because it was all one way. I mean, it was Tito, it was these dogs, and they,
God, can you imagine a Brooks? Can you imagine a Brooks and Tito parlay? Oh my God, can't even imagine what that paid. So we only got a couple of minutes here, Joey. Robbie Lawler, his first fight since losing to Johnny Hendricks in an extremely close fight. Who are the sharps on in this one, Joey, right now against Ellenberger? Lawler's like a 225 favorite. I thought maybe it would be a little bit higher, but do people think that was the fight of his life, so to speak, and he sort of peaked? What do you make of this one?
It's the same thing. I expected it to be a little bit higher, but it's not. He's about a 2-1 favorite, which is probably right on paper. Can Ellenberger, can you make a case for Ellenberger beating him? You can. They're both coming off of losses. I would say that the 5 rounds might have took a little bit more out of Robbie than it did Jake. But I think Robbie at the same time, he's had a career rebound. And, he's one of those late bloomers again. We want to say Carlos Condit did it, and he came back after the big win over McDonald. And it's the same type of thing here. It's a tough fight to bet. And I bet against Lawler, because I've seen him look pretty bad. I mean, was it Lorenz Larkin that beat him?
Yeah.
at the loss. So, you know, it's not. I mean, he's not unbeatable, but he does peak. I mean, he's looked really, really good. He looks rejuvenated, almost like, you know, Belfort has in some of his fights. I mean, he's coming back. And when these guys have nothing to, you know, he really doesn't have a lot to lose here. I mean, he's proved himself over and over again. You know, if you had to put a gun to my head, I'm not looking to run out and lay prices, especially after last week. I mean, I got to put last week in the rearview mirror because some of those prices were just too high. You could, you know, and
but this is a shorter price.
You get the same wagers at, you know, I believe you get the same bets Cormier if he was minus 500 right now, and Henderson if he was plus 350. I mean, I saw this thing go up to 12-1, which I thought was absurd. You know, but hindsight's always 100%, and you know, it's easy to play results. You know, one fight I do like that's right underneath that. I think this Francisco Rivera is going to give Mizugaki a run. I like him. I think he's tough as nails.
You like Riviera? We got to wrap it up, Joey, but quickly in like 30 seconds here, if not quicker. Varner's a favorite against Krause. James Krause, kind of an underrated fighter, plus money. You think he's got a shot?
Krause has got to take him deep. You know, he's got to break him. It's the first round. You know, this is something that you might want to bet in progress. I mean, the first round's going to really show. I mean, I've seen Varner look real good, and I've seen Varner look real bad. You know, he did have a little bit of a surge there. Who did he upset a while ago?
Was it Barbosa?
He was supposed to lose. Who was it?
Was it Barbosa he upset?
Yeah, Barbosa. Yeah, I mean,
that's the thing. Whenever you think Varner's done, he's not done, and he's going to retire. He's sort of hung on, but we got to wrap it up, unfortunately. But we always continue these conversations on Sirius XM channel 167. That's Sirius XM channel 167, Tuesday nights at 10 o'clock Eastern. Joey Odessa always joins me. We have more time to break down some of these preliminary fights. Joey, it's always a pleasure, my man.
Okay, my pleasure, Gabe. Have a good one.
Check out Joey at MMA Odds on Twitter.com. MMA Meltdown continues. All right, that wraps up the program. Thanks to all of our guests, Robin Black, Big Earl Skakel, and, of course, Joey Odessa. Check out countermove.com. Check out Morency and Black, Fantasy Sports Network, Fight Network, Free Roll. That's right, it's free. It's free money, people, and it's a hell of a lot of fun. And I'll tell you what, this countermove stuff is actually pretty addictive. For my final UFC selections, check out sportsragetv.com later in the week. Thanks to everyone here at the Fight Network. Thanks for tuning in. Other than that, you're on your own. Later.